I've been using DistroKid for years, and throughout those years, I've seen a lot of amazing changes and improvements to DistroKid. In addition, I've also had a few ideas myself of ways to improve it. So in this video, I'm going to talk about 5 ideas I have to improve DistroKid in 2022. Number 1, auto songwriter name. What I'm talking about is when you upload a track on DistroKid, you have to enter in the songwriter's name. Now they did add in a cool feature. If let's say I'm doing a multi-track release, like an album or an EP, I enter in the name once, click copy, and it copies it to all the other tracks on the album. However, if I release just a single, I still have to type in that name every single time. It would be great if I could almost set up like a default songwriter name. That way, any single time I upload a single, it's automatically typed out in that songwriter section, and all I have to do is kind of eyeball it, be like, yep, that's the right one, and I continue on uploading. Now, of course, I may need to change it if, let's say, there's multiple songwriters, or if the songwriter changes, whatever the case is, but having a default songwriter name, I think is a cool feature to make it a lot easier to upload. Number 2, deleting extras. It's super frustrating and annoying that when I, let's say, release anything, single, EP, album, whatever, and I, let's say, pick an add-on or an extra, let's say in hindsight, I'm like, you know what, I just don't think that extra is worth it, maybe it's too expensive, etc., etc. The really only way to remove, so to speak, that extra is to completely delete the release and then re-release it or re-upload it, which causes a massive amount of issues in on its own. It just unbelievably annoying, not only with the time, but there might be complications, with other platforms. You never know, as we all know, deleting and re-uploading has its own issues and complications. And I wish that DistroKid would involve some type of very easy feature where if I already released something and I picked an add-on or whatever, all I have to do is go to edit release, go to my add-on sections or my extra section and say, you know what? I know I selected this earlier, but I'd like to remove it to no longer use it in the future. Number 3, expected submission date. This would be a great way to minimize a lot of the messages DistroKid is probably getting. And what I'm talking about is when you release a song or upload a song or release on DistroKid, it goes through mainly 3 main stages. The first is DistroKid checks to make sure everything's correct, right? Your titling, your artwork, the file's great. Then it goes to the second stage, which is pending. They're going to submit it to stores, but it's this unique little yellow icon on that release where you're like, all right, it's ready to be released, but at some point it might be some kind of pending submission date. And then it gets released in the third stage where that then yellow icon turns green. I think it'd be a great feature, and it might be tough to estimate, but you could just have it as maybe like an algorithm or whatever, where you say, hey, your release is ready to go, everything looks great, but we don't think based off our computing systems or whatever, we can release it or submit it to stores until tomorrow or the next day or whatever. So you can maybe have like a little cool thing below the yellow icon saying expected submission date to stores in 2 days or 36 hours from now, or you can even give a date like January, etc. Whatever the date is. In addition to this, you could kind of do it similar to like the Domino's tracker, in case you didn't know when you order Domino's, and it says, oh, your order's going in the oven or whatever. In case you didn't know, that's all fake. That's just a timed out thing that they automatically just do. You could do the same thing. We'll let you determine algorithmically that when someone submits a release and everything looks good and it's pending, on average, let's say it takes 40 hours from the time that it looks good to the time that it gets submitted to stores. You can make that maybe an auto thing saying, we're expecting it to be submitted to stores. You submitted it on January 10th. We're expecting it's going to be submitted to stores on January 12th, but we'll let you know if there's any changes, whether it takes longer or shorter. That way, at least, people are not saying, hey, what's taking so long? What's taking so long? Or what you can even do as well is maybe give like a later date just to be safe. I know a lot of shipping algorithms do this. We say, okay, you released it on January 10th. We're expecting to submit it to stores on January 17th. And then that way, they're like, okay, it's going to take a week. I get it. But if, let's say, it gets released to stores on January 14th, or only takes 4 days, that way people are like, oh, great. Took a lot faster than I expected. You can kind of engage it, but at least this way, you're not getting those annoying messages and emails that you're probably getting of people saying, hey, I submitted my release. It says it looks good. It's been 3 days. What's happening, it will say something saying, hey, it's going to take 7 days. And you're like, okay, I'm going to wait 7 days because That's what DistroKid says. Number 4, different artists layout. Now, when it comes to DistroKid, one of the best parts is the GUI, of course. Similar to Google, how going on Google now versus, years and years ago, it pretty much looks the same. The simplicity works. The KISS model of keep it simple, stupid really goes a long way. Same thing with DistroKid. However, I think one unique GUI change that would be great is if, let's say, you have multiple artists, whether you release music on multiple artists, which is what I do, or let's say you own a label, if there was a little drop-down thing, maybe on the main dashboard, where you could click select or filter by artist. Because let's say for me, if I have to, let's say, go through my releases under one artist versus another, I really have to pull up, Command F or Apple F, depending on what computer you're using, and just search by that specific artist and to try to find that song, that release. I think it'd be very useful if, let's say, I'm like, okay, I want to see all the releases just for Joe Schmo or all the releases for Bob Smith. I'm able to click like a drop-down menu and organize my releases specifically for that exact artist. Because normally, all the releases for those artists are all jumbled up in the same release section. Number 5, the Shazam Apple Music glitch. This is something that was brought to my attention by a bunch of people commenting on my channel when I talked about the Shazam add-on. In case you don't know, when you pick the Shazam add-on, it costs you $1 per year per song. So if you've released 50 songs so far, it's costing you an extra $50 a year. And I've always said, oh, that's 100% worth it. That extra dollar you're spending per song is worth it when it comes to the marketing, publicity, promotion, etc., etc. However, this was brought to my attention that when you release music on DistroKid, one of the default stores that is selected is Apple Music. It's one of the most common stores, period. And when you release music on Apple Music, again, which is the default setting, it automatically, and for free, also gets put into Shazam. I then tested this feature. In the name of science, I tested this out. I released kind of like a random track. I did not put that track into Shazam. I waited, about a week. I then Shazammed it, and it did pop up. So this is true. And unfortunately, whether DistroKid knows this or not, I'm not sure. Any single time you're releasing music on Apple Music, which is kind of the default setting, it automatically goes on Shazam. So if you are selecting that Shazam option, which I have been for a while, you're basically just throwing money out the window. Honestly, this should be fixed because you're just having musicians, myself included, just wasting money essentially. And I think the best way to do it would be if Apple Music is checked, the Shazam and iPhone Siri option is impossible to check. It basically does not appear under extras. However, if for whatever reason, like say an artist does not want to release their music on Apple Music, whatever the case is, whatever their reasoning is, that option then appears out of nowhere. That way you could still put your music on Shazam if you don't want it to be on Apple Music. This definitely should be fixed. And now, a bonus idea, and that is Visi batching. Now, in case you don't know, Visi is a site DistroKid created where you can create visualizers for your music. You've probably seen these on YouTube where there's a song playing, and there's like a little spectrum that dances with the song and matches with the song and everything. You can do that via Visi, and it costs $9 for one video. However, if let's say you want to do 2 different videos or resolutions, let's say you do one that's for YouTube, like a horizontal one that's vertical for like TikTok, you get 10% off if you buy 2 or more. However, what's very frustrating is if I release an album, let's say a 10-track album, I have to manually select each one of the tracks specifically, create the visualizer, and I'm spending full price. I don't get any discounts. Not only, I think, would this improve, I think, just customer ease of use, honestly, but also DistroKid's revenue if you could select just the album. And what would happen is DistroKid or Visi would automatically create 10 individual videos, one for each track that you could bounce out, and you could still kind of add in that discount idea. So you could say, if you're doing, 3 tracks or more, you get 10% off. But if you do, 7 tracks or more, you get 15% off. If you do 10 tracks or more, you get, 20% off, etc., etc. This is a win-win for everybody because for the user, you click one release, that's it does everything for you. And then for DistroKid, by offering them that discount and incentivize them, spend more money with Visi.